in Hollywood. And this was quite a shock to Swami that it would be an art, because all he could think of, as we think of Bollywood here in Mumbai, was a bunch of movie stars. He thought, when he heard the autobiography of the yogi, that the only place that Yogananda had residence, the ashram, was in Haridas. And so that changed his mindset. And so when he went to Haridas in September 1948, he was shocked to find when he met Nayaswamis, who gave him quite an alarm when he said, "I'd like to join the ashram." He said, "You'll need to follow the lessons for 4 years." And he was not happy with that. Who was this woman and all of this stuff? Not realizing that she was one of Yogananda's most highly advanced disciples. What good karma for him to have met her. And yet when he went to Hollywood, because that's where Nayaswamis had directed him, because Master was just finishing up the service there and so forth, on the bus, he had perhaps his first lesson of deep and true discipleship, where he remembered what good karma this was. And he remembered that she had this wonderful and deep vibration, especially through her eyes. There was a greatness there, a wisdom. And so he said, "Please forgive me." He had judged her wrongly. And it was so interesting that he felt at that time that that's where he was then accepted as a disciple. But his test wasn't over yet. When he got to the Hollywood church, then again, he was rebuffed when the secretary said, "Well, you can't meet Master today because he's booked for 2.5, 3 months or so." He thought, "Oh, here we go again." And this time, the test, I guess, was riding a little heavy on his shoulder. So at one point, he began to head to the door. I'll stay nearby, I'll read the lessons and so on, where perhaps a shaft of light came down and touched, I believe it was Mary Hammond, the secretary, and said, "Well, you've come from such a far distance. Let's see if I can talk to Master, perhaps he'll see you." And he was able to see Master next. And he uttered to Yogananda words he thought he would utter to no other man. Of course, Master wasn't a man, he was a God-man. But nevertheless, there it is. I want to be your disciple. In the early years before Swami had read the autobiography of the yogi and had radically changed his life, this was a real tussle for him because there wasn't any support. When he would go to the churches and so forth, they were just talking about, look out, because if you don't do this and so, the Nazis will get you, or if it's not the Nazis, it's alcohol and so forth. Where was the devotion? Where was their God? And at one point, because he couldn't find anyone on his wavelength, he was so spoiled to have spiritual family, he did not have that. He thought he was going crazy because he had never thought of anyone or heard of anyone seeking God. He just hadn't had that experience in his own church, in his own upbringing. And yet somehow, some way, he was able, really, primarily through his intellect initially, to go through that labyrinth of his own mind till finally he got to the point where he really felt there must be consciousness. And with that, then, very, very quickly thereafter came that wonderful experience of the story. But even then, when he saw the autobiography of the yogi, and it was dedicated to Luther Burbank, he put the book back again. He said, "This is crazy. America, land of the almighty dollar, has dedicated a book to Luther Burbank." And who knows, if the karma had been different, it might have been it. He might have missed the narrow window where he would meet Yogananda and spend that 3.5 years with him. But luckily, Divine Mother played a trick on him and did some fancy legwork, as we read in the path, where he was magnetically pushed toward the bookstore again and was thrilled inside. There must be something, because he remembered the face, that beautiful face of Master. He was so drawn to. There must be something in that book that I need to read. And when he got the book, he took it home, that he said became the joyous literary adventure of his life. And so we have had the great blessing here with Swamiji in his mid-70s, and I still marvel at that. I'm sure we all do. He would start a major work in India, and it was not easy with all of his physical ailments and so forth to do what he did and spend the last decade of his life here. But he did. And by doing that, touched many, many people's lives, giving people a sense as to what it is to be a true disciple. Years ago, when we were built one hotel, when Master left his body back in 1952, Swami said something he had never said before or since, as far as I remember. It was the Mahasamadhi celebration, and it was hundreds of people there. And he said, you know, you're very fortunate to have the direct disciple. And I thought, my goodness, because he never said anything like that. He very rarely talked about any of his spiritual experiences, even though we would ask him to. He wouldn't. But this time, I feel that he's probably thinking, it's time now. You know who you have before you. And again, Master said you'll be free in this life. And as the years unfolded, his last years in India, it was quite amazing what we were to see year after year as he melted in the spirit. And so this is a joyous weekend. The actual day's anniversary was yesterday. To spend time and meditate on the life of this great disciple. The disciples help us so much in showing us the way, because so often we think that these great Christs and Christians are so far beyond what we can imagine. We don't even know where to get started. And yet the disciples come along and say, come, one step at a time, follow me. And so, happy anniversary. This is again an auspicious time for us to go and to especially tune into the joy which is Swamiji, Swamiji, which is of course the hallmark of all true and true disciples. So I'll turn this on over now.
We're going to listen to Jyotish and Devi and give us a short talk.
Hello, this is a very important time for all people because we're celebrating Swami. And in a real sense, this is to be considered the birthday of the work of Roma, because it was in that meeting yesterday this was first of all accepted into the family of self-realization. But many of you have probably read the stories, but just to recall it very briefly, Swami was at the end of a desperate search throughout his childhood for meaning in life, and finally, especially for somehow to have contact with wisdom and with some higher guidance, because he just didn't feel that he had been able to find that anywhere in life. At that time, out of that desperation of search, the autobiography came to him semi-miraculously, and he very, very quickly came across country, came to eventually meet Master at the Hollywood Church. And Master, at that first meeting, kind of went to the spiritual life, and it was as if he was scanning someone. And then he accepted him and immediately gave him the vows for him becoming a monk and joining the rest of the relatively small group of Russians. But Master asked him two things before those vows. He said, will you give me your unconditional love? And Swamiji said yes, of course. Because he just felt that overwhelming love in many cases. But Master also asked him, will you give me your unconditional obedience? And Swami hesitated for a short time. And he said, what if I feel that you're giving me some false sense of comfort? And Master said, I will never ask anything of you that God does not tell me. And with that, so in any resistance that you might have, he said, yes, of course I will. Those two vows, in a sense, or those two questions form the heart of not only Swamiji's search for him, but everyone's search for him. Imagine that this is not now just a meeting between Swami and Master, but it's a meeting between you and Master, or you in whatever form of God that you hold most dear. Ask you, will you give me your unconditional love? Now, one person can truly answer that and say yes, then already really that game is over. Because that unconditional love is a magnet that will bring us to divine realization. Because love is the power of attraction, power that brings two things together. In this case, brings the soul into unity with God. And so that power, once we willingly accept it, that power becomes extremely powerful. But then we also need to
Yeah, there's some internet issue. There's some internet issue.
You have it on the thing.
No, there is some internet problem. The internet has stopped working. No?
Internet is not working.
Yeah.
Just go through.
to have theoretically free, but in reality that free will has already been given away to desires of this world, to old past habits and tendencies, the samskaras that we learn from past lives, and so on. So we don't really have that free will under our control, and therefore we need guidance. Well, on this day, above all, Swamiji, on behalf of everything that was going to later be manifested as Ananda, took those vows on your behalf, on my behalf, on behalf of countless thousands and millions of people who will be affected by this beautiful day. So this lovely celebration of our spiritual birthday is a very precious and very sacred day. It would be very good to meditate, to get inside yourself, and to offer your unconditional love and your obedience to the divine. God bless you.
Hello. I'm also so happy to share some thoughts of inspiration that have come to me for September 12th, Swamiji's spiritual anniversary. You know, he met Master in 1948, so this year marks the 67th anniversary of them, that moment where Swamiji found himself once again at Master's feet. As Master said in Autobiography of a Yogi, when he met Sri Yukteswar and would come to his ashram, this was not the first dawn to find me at my Guru's feet. And I think similarly for Swamiji, this lifetime was not the first lifetime. In fact, may have been the culmination of many, many lifetimes of the Guru, of Master, lovingly, patiently, wisely, freeing the soul from all limitations to achieve final freedom, as I feel deeply in my heart Swamiji did. Towards the end of his life, Swami said to many of us, and as you know, his was a life of tremendous accomplishments. But he said, all I want to be remembered for is that I was a good disciple. So let us consider.
It's okay, it's buffering. It will come back, it's buffering.
Slow.
Because in considering these, we can model our own life and our own discipleship, our own path to freedom. I think first and foremost was the complete surrender of his life to Master. From the moment he read autobiography, knelt at Master's feet a few days later, received his blessings and his acceptance into Master's spiritual family as a disciple. From that moment, I believe every thought, every action that he had was always, how can I serve my Guru? How can I love him better? How can I please him? How can I be more in attunement with him? So that unceasing movement of the consciousness towards the Guru and making that the priority above all other things. Swamiji attained great recognition in this life through his books and his worldwide lectures, but the second hallmark of his discipleship was never to put himself in front of the Guru. He always, any accomplishment he had, it was always my Guru did it. This is how my Guru taught me. This is how he trained me. So always that deep humility, the humility to know that it is the Guru acting through us at all times. There was also another aspect of Swami's discipleship was the great desire to share Master's teachings with others in whatever way we can. He did it through so many beautiful ways, music and poetry and writing and lecturing and just simply divine friendship to all the world. But for each of us, we also need to find the way that we can share Master's teachings. Maybe it's just a smile to a stranger. Maybe it's giving a book to a friend who you think this might help them. But whatever it is, to be constantly looking for ways that we can share Master's teachings with others whenever we see someone in need. Another hallmark of Swami's discipleship was his ever expansive attitude towards doing more and better when in every way, in his outward service and in his inner attunement. So never to accept complacency. I've done enough. in my early years at Ananda, I didn't understand this, and I would do a project and think it's good enough. And a number of times Swami corrected me because he saw I hadn't brought it to the best that I could do. And so always look at everything we do and never say, oh, well, it's good enough, but say, is this the best? Is this the best that I can do? And then put out the energy to make that happen. And finally, I think the most important aspect of Swamiji's discipleship was a love that flowed from every aspect of his being. It was that love that enabled him, particularly in the later years of his life when he was often ill, his body gave him a lot of trouble. But we saw many times he would get up from a sick bed with a high fever and just put a pleasant smile on his face and say, I have a commitment today. I have to give a talk. I have to meet with these people. And where do you find the strength and the energy and the dedication to dedicate every day of your life in that way? It comes from the most profound love of the heart that forgets itself in serving that which one loves. And so for each of us, let us try to emulate Swami's discipleship. When he said, all I want is to be known as a good disciple, that's the greatest gift he gave to us because he modeled what the truest level of discipleship is. And if we can walk just a part of the path that he walked, if we can achieve a fraction of what he was able to achieve spiritually, this will be a life very well lived. So let's try on this day and on the day surrounding September 12th, to meditate on Swamiji's discipleship and find how we ourselves can perfect our own lives until we too, when God ordains it is the right moment, we too can be free completely in God. Joy to you.
Joy to you, my friends. Happy spiritual birthday. God bless you.
Before we do the arati, we wanted to give a gift to people on this day. And we chose a book, The Essence of Self-Realization. And all of us want to share it with you. I wanted to read, many of you have this book, but if you don't, you can get it like or see Rakesh afterwards. But I wanted to read to you the introduction. It's a very important book. And Swamiji has said this is one of the most important books that he's ever written. I lived with Paramahansa Yogananda as a disciple for the last 3.5 years of his life. After I'd been with him a year and a half, he began urging me to write down things that he was saying during informal conversations. We were at his desert retreat when he was completing his commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita. At first I found myself in some difficulty. I knew no shorthand and my handwriting was daunting to read, even for me. The master, however, true to his own teaching that one should concentrate on light instead of on darkness, paid no attention to such insignificant handicaps. He kept on urging me. I don't often speak from a level of jnana, impersonal wisdom, he said. His nature usually found expression in divine love. My enthusiasm grew as I realized that nowhere else had I ever read or heard teaching so profound, so clear, and so convincing. Write that down, he would call out to me over the years that followed, during conversations with the monks or with visitors. Sometimes in explanation he would add, I've never said that before. My penmanship being what it was, I could never hope to keep up with him. As weeks passed, however, I discovered that he had bestowed on me an extraordinary blessing. I was able to hear his voice afterwards as if speaking words in my mind as I wrote them down. So remarkable was his blessing that years later in India, I was able to verify my memory of words, and even whole sentences that he'd uttered in Hindi or Bengali, both of which languages were unknown to me when he was alive. Even today, the memory of his words and of his voice rings clearly in my mind, rich with wisdom, divine love, and fullness of spiritual power, frequently combined with a delightful sense of humor. His conversations were sprinkled with anecdotes. They sparkled with metaphors and contained the deepest insights into all levels of reality, human and divine, that I ever have had the great blessing to encounter. This is my gift to you, Swami Kriyananda, Nami World Brotherhood Village, Nevada City, California. So he's written this book for us, and these are all Master's comments and words over the years. And the blessing will have one out to you. We'd like to receive this. So let's stand for the arati, and you pass these flowers around, and then when we come up with a blessing, let's each offer a flower.